Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Drop Dead Serious. I'm Ashleigh Banfield. We are now 3 days into Lori Vallow's Arizona trial for the murder of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. And this courtroom, it is on fire. Today, Lori showed us once again that she is not just the defendant in this trial. She is the star. She is the lawyer. And sometimes she is the loudest voice in the room. Who knew that things would get so crazy on day 3? Day 3 is when I'm used to hearing from like AT&T cell phone experts or like super boring DNA specialists. And it's really hard to stay alert during some of that kind of dry testimony. But today was not that. Today things got juicy, like grapefruit juice. Like I'm talking bitter party of one. They say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And Lori was that woman today, that scorned woman. Acting as her own lawyer, she had to cross-examine a woman who went on a secret date with her husband. You know, the husband that she's accused of killing. So imagine for a moment the like cat fight vibe that erupted when things got personal with that witness. The judge had to actually save Lori from herself. And the rest of the day was action-packed too, from like fiery cross-examinations and heated back and forths to a witness who says that she overheard some pretty incriminating things. Like Lori saying she drugged her husband, Charles, and her brother Alex saying he wanted to kill Charles. We're now knee-deep in the strange, the spiritual, and the downright chilling. So let's get into it. Lori came out swinging today, resuming her cross-examination of retired Chandler police detective Daniel Coons. She challenged his findings on everything, from gunshot trajectory to bullet fragment locations. And that's important because the state says that the forensics show that Charles was shot twice, once while he was standing and once while he was on the floor. And if you shoot somebody who's already lying on the floor, that does not amount to self-defense anymore. That's murder. So one moment, Lori was asking the detective if stippling was found on Charles's chest, and then questioning whether the floor in her rental home had ever been tested for bullet damage. She seemed laser focused on the bullet's path, how it traveled through her husband's body, and whether the floorboards beneath him had been examined for ricochet marks.
So the wood floor plank that was taken from my residence was never tested for any fragments of the projectile.
The projectile was intact, minus a deformity to it.
Okay. But there wasn't any reason, are you saying there was no reason to test it?
There had been no implication or indication that there was a request for it to be tested.
And you wouldn't do that to see if the projectile actually hit the floor?
No, ma'am. All the other circumstances and information that led up to that decision to seize the floor, everything appeared that it was going to be related to the actual bullet that passed through your husband's body and struck the floor.
Those are all actually really good questions, because in any death investigation, that stuff should be like really meticulously logged, right? Forensics investigators need to know trajectory of bullets. They need to know if bullets launched in the floor, right? They need to know if someone was shot while he was down. And yet the shooter's saying self-defense. But the detective calmly answered Lori, no, they didn't test that piece of flooring, because he said the scene and the witness interviews, that those things all told the story. Well, that's fine and dandy. But again, science is important when it comes to murder investigations. It's even important when it comes to self-defense investigations, because not every self-defense is what they actually say it is. But Lori kept pressing this detective, and her tone got sharper and sharper every time the prosecution objected. And by 11 a.m., she was snapping at this witness.
Do you know for a fact that Alex shot the gun in question?
Based on the information provided, that is what I have, yes.
Do you know that for a fact?
Just with the information that's been provided, I can't tell you one way or another if there's another shooter, because the evidence does not show that there was.
Okay. So all you really know for sure, after your 5 years of investigation, is that my husband was shot 2 times, 1 by that particular gun, 2 with those particular bullets, at my residence, and that he passed away as a result of that. Would that be correct?
You oversimplified. There is a lot more information that is available to us for that.
Is that correct? Is that question correct?
Those are some known facts, yes, but that is not all we know.
Next witness up, a woman named Nancy Jo Hancock. I know, I had not heard of her either, but this woman was dynamite, as in explosive to Lori's case. Nancy is the woman Charles Vallow met on a dating site. In fact, he went on a date with Nancy the night before he was murdered. Nancy Jo testified that she and Charles talked all about Lori. She said he was, quote, done with the craziness and that he was getting a divorce, and said he couldn't wait to see his son JJ the next morning and take his little boy to school.
What was his demeanor about with regards to JJ and seeing his son?
Like a kid on Christmas morning. He was very excited to see JJ.
Nancy Jo and Charles had dinner at the Keg Steakhouse in Phoenix. They shut the place down, literally. And then they talked outside by Nancy's truck for another 45 minutes. But then the next day, dead silence. Nancy Jo texted Charles. She called him. No answer. By this point, she figured she had probably been ghosted. She wondered if she'd misread things, because she thought they'd made a pretty good connection. I mean, that date went on late. 5 months later, though, Nancy Jo found out what really happened to Charles. Charles Vallow had been shot and killed the morning after their date. His name didn't make the news at the time because police mistakenly decided his killing was self-defense, and therefore it wasn't criminal. So Nancy, she just went on with her life until the headlines broke in December that little boy JJ and his big sister, they were missing, and that Charles Vallow's wife, Lori, she was wanted. Kay Woodcock was on the news. That was Charles Vallow's sister. Kay was looking for her brother's kids. So Nancy Jo called Kay Woodcock and told her everything she knew. And when it was time for Lori to cross-examine Nancy Jo, you could have heard a pin drop. Lori grilled Nancy Jo on all sorts of topics, many of them completely irrelevant to the murder case. And yes, the prosecution had to stay on their toes with objection after objection. Lori demanded to know if Nancy Jo knew for a fact whether Charles was getting divorced, whether Nancy Jo dated married men, and whether Nancy Jo thought that Charles was a good kisser. And frankly, between the tense responses, it really seemed that Nancy Jo was the one grieving Charles Vallow, more so than Lori, his actual wife.
Nancy Jo, right?
Correct.
And we have not met before,
We
correct?
have not.
Okay. And you stated that your husband, or my husband, told you that he was going through a divorce. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you have any way to verify that?
No, I didn't try to verify that.
Okay. So did it surprise you later to find out that we were not in the process of a divorce?
Charles was in the process of a divorce.
He was not in the process of a divorce. Did it surprise you to find that out? You've seen it all on TV where we're not getting divorced.
Okay.
So on the website that you met him, did he say he was divorced?
I'm not certain.
Would you have gone on a date with him if he would have said he was married?
If I would have realized how married he still was, maybe not. But I just met for dinner. I wasn't sleeping with him or anything.
Do you go on dates with married men?
I'm going
Naturally?
argumentative. And I'm going to also object under 611 for harassment.
All right. I'll sustain the objection.
Your Honor, do I not have a right to cross-examine this witness for what she has already testified to?
You can cross-examine her about what she's testified to.
So you did go on a date with a married man,
I went on a date with Charles.
but you did not know he was married.
I knew his divorce was not final.
His divorce was not started.
Okay.
Okay. So in your text messages, you asked Charles if he was a good kisser. Is that correct?
Maybe, sure.
Did he answer that text message?
I'm
gonna
sure.
object to
I'm sure he did.
relevance. Again, 611 harassment.
I'll sustain the objection for relevance and hearsay.
So are you trying to tell me and this jury that you went on one date with my husband and he told you all the details of our lives?
I'm telling you the truth, and that's what I know.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me.
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
On your date, you talked about my husband was a life insurance salesman, is that correct?
I knew he did something with money and insurance, but I really didn't know the details of what he did for work. Like I said, I don't ask the details about what someone does for work when I'm trying to get to know someone.
But you knew that he sold life insurance, you stated that.
I believe that I had a vague understanding that he did something with insurance.
And then he brought that up again at dinner.
No, we didn't talk about his work at dinner.
I thought you said you did talk about, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said you did talk about that he changed the life insurance policy at dinner.
Well, you were asking me if we talked about that he sold insurance, which that didn't happen. But yes, he did tell me that he changed the beneficiary of his life insurance policy at dinner.
Did he tell you how much his life insurance policy was for?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
$1 million.
Did he tell you how much my life insurance policy was for?
I do not recall.
You don't recall?
We didn't talk about you very much in that vein.
When did you talk to him about me very much then? If it wasn't at dinner, was it in your text messages?
We were talking about what he was going through in the process of separating from you, not about what your life insurance policy was worth. And we talked about you on the phone, and when I say you, meaning what he was doing as he was going through this separation.
So let me understand. You were dating some different men on this website, right? From the websites.
Sure.
Would you say it was common for men to be talking so much about their supposed ex-wives during their conversations with a potential...
It's actually very common.
Really?
Really.
Interesting.
And again, Your Honor, I'm
right.
going to object to the defendant making comments after her questions.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I won't do that again.
All right, please stop.
I'll just ask the questions.
Thank you.
Did he talk to you about my daughter, Tylee?
He did.
Did he talk about his relationship with her?
I don't recall that.
Did he talk about the contention in his relationship with my daughter, Tylee?
I don't recall that.
I'm sure you don't.
And I'm going to object to comments by the defendant made after questions testifying.
Things got so heated that the judge paused to warn Lori Vallow about opening the door to testimony that could come back to bite her in the you-know-what.
You testified a minute ago that Charles told you a lot of things about his wife. You didn't say ex-wife, but you said wife. Is that correct?
Okay, sure.
What were a lot of things?
The things that I've testified to.
Can you be more specific?
Am I allowed to do a narrative then?
Let's go on sidebar. I'll excuse the jury for just a few minutes because we're having technical technical difficulty with the court reporter being able to hear. The last question the defendant asked of the witness was along the lines of, what things did you discuss about me, meaning the defendant? Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
what I recall, Your Honor.
Are you sure you wanted to answer that question? Because you're opening up a really big door. If you want her to answer the question, I'll have her answer the question.
How am I supposed to know what a lot of things are?
All right. If you want her to answer the question and there's no objection from the state, we'll
No
bring
objection.
the jury back in and have her answer the question.
But the jury got the message loud and clear. Charles was making plans and looking for love elsewhere. All in all, the state hit it out of the park with this witness. I mean, what better motive to have your husband killed than being angry that he's seeing someone else? Oh, and then there was also this. Nancy Jo testified on the stand that she and Charles, during their conversations, had actually talked about his life insurance, about the fact that Charles told Nancy Jo he had switched the beneficiary of his life insurance from Lori to his sister Kay. Talk about motive, right? If you don't know that, because Lori didn't know that. And that certainly could have been all the things that this jury was thinking at this point, right? Then came perhaps the most damning testimony of the day. Lori's former church friend, Christina Atwood. Christina told the jury that she met Lori at the LDS church. And by June of 2019, Christina said that Lori was saying some very, very dark things. She testified that Lori had told her multiple times that Charles was possessed by dark spirits, that she needed to cast them out. And at one of those gatherings on June 9th, she said Lori's brother, Alex Cox, made a chilling comment in front of the church group.
At this meeting, did Lori still express that her husband, Charles, was possessed?
Yes.
And what were you guys, what was happening at this meeting? I know you said there was a prayer. What was happening?
We were asked to fast and pray for her family, and so we'd come together fasting, and we, as I recall, gathered outside and had a prayer together. And I believe Lori was the one that said the prayer. And then we went in and broke our fasts and ate and then visited.
Okay. Was Alex part of that prayer outside?
Yes.
Okay. During this, when you broke your fast and you guys were eating, did you hear Alex making some comments?
Yes.
And you told us that they made you uncomfortable. What were these comments?
He stated he wished that he could just kill Charles.
Okay. Was Lori around when he was saying this?
Yes, one of the times.
Okay. So he said it more than once.
Yes.
And it got a lot worse. Christina Atwood said that Lori told her she'd crushed up JJ's medication and put it in Charles' drinks, that she was drugging her husband, Charles Vallow.
I heard her say that she had crushed up some of JJ's medicine and put it in his drink mix.
Did it sound like a significant amount of medication?
Yes.
When you heard this, what were you thinking?
I was disturbed.
So you're thinking now she's drugging her husband?
Yes.
Alex, have any reaction to this?
Not that I recall.
Christina Atwood said she confronted Lori the next day, told her if anything happened to Charles, she'd go to the police. But she says Lori laughed it off and accused Christina of, quote, just being dramatic. And she testified Lori then changed her story and said she hadn't really given Charles the drugs, or at least not in that amount. And yet, weeks later, Charles Vallow was dead. When asked if Lori ever said she was joking about any of this, about the dark spirits, about the drugs, Christina said, no, never. And then in a big surprise, Lori had her shot at a cross-examination, and she did nothing. She said nothing. Not a single question. No cross-examination of Christina Atwood. No comments. Just silence. So now we're heading into day 4 of this jaw-dropping trial. And let me tell you, if today's testimony is any indication of where this trial is headed, Lori Vallow's defense strategy could very well backfire. One witness at a time. Until then, thank you so much for listening, everyone, to this update. I'm Ashleigh Banfield, and remember, the truth isn't just serious. It's drop dead serious.